When I was younger, my family would oftentimes go to a shopping center in Columbus one weekend of the month, mostly to see a movie or just general shopping. And my favorite store to go to was Barnes & Noble, which is a bookstore here in the States. I read a lot as a kid, so I always loved going in to get a new book, but it was one of these visits where I discovered something that would change the course of my life forever. It was a graphic novelization of the Pokemon movie, Arceus and the Jewel of Life. As a kid, I loved Pokemon, so I had to get this new book, but as I held it in my hands, something about it was off. The cover illustration was on the back cover, and the blurb was on the front cover. This blew my child mind. And I quickly ran to my parents, asking if they had ever seen anything like this before, and why the book was like this. Well, they couldn't answer my questions, but I soon found out that the answers I sought were in the front, or rather back, of the book that I held in my hands. You're reading in the wrong direction. Whoops, guess what? You're starting at the wrong end of the comic. It's true. In keeping with the original Japanese format, blank is meant to be read from right to left, starting in the upper right corner. Unlike English, which is read from left to right, Japanese is read from right to left, meaning that action, sound effect, and word balloon order are completely reversed, something which can make readers unfamiliar with Japanese feel pretty backwards themselves. For this reason, manga, or Japanese comics published in the US in English, have sometimes been published as flopped, that is, printed in exact reverse order, as though seen from the other side of a mirror. By flopping pages, US publishers can avoid confusing readers, but the compromise is not without its downside. For one thing, a character in a flopped manga series who once wore in the original Japanese version a t-shirt emblazoned with May, as in the merry month of, now wears one which reads Yam. Additionally, many manga creators in Japan are themselves unhappy with the process, as some feel the mirror imaging of their art skews their original intentions. We are proud to bring you blanks blank in the original unflopped format. For now, though, turn to the other side of the book and let the adventure begin. This page is very nostalgic to me, as it might be to other people who have read manga in the West. However, as I've gotten older and purchased way more manga, I've discovered that this page is slowly being phased out. So I thought we would look back and see what made this page so important in the first place and why it might not be so necessary nowadays. In the 90s, anime was a growing subculture in America, with titles like Akira, Trigun, and Rurouni Kenshin leading the charge. However, even with the rise in popularity of anime, manga was still having a hard time taking off. The practice of flopping the manga was used to try and get more appeal from American audiences, but this practice failed due to two reasons. One, the writers of the books themselves didn't really like the practice, and two, manga was already having a hard time competing with Western graphic novels, and you could still tell that there was something off about the books. A baffling example of manga being flopped that I saw 2 years ago was the Star Wars manga. Yes, there is a Star Wars manga. These are adaptations of the original trilogy films that were released from 1997 to 1999. They were later licensed by Dark Horse and given an English release. However, the English versions were mirrored. Which, I'm sorry, of all the books you're going to mirror, you pick Star Wars. You know, Star Wars, the massive media franchise that has a large, loyal fan base that has every frame of every movie memorized. You want to market a book to that fan base, but everything they know and love is backwards? The front of the book even has a page that basically says, "Look, we know this is wrong, but it's not our fault that the Japanese read backwards." The last volume of the Star Wars manga to be released in English was The Phantom Menace in 2000, which was 2 years off from where English manga releases changed for the better. The first publishing company to release a manga volume similar to how we know it today was Tokyopop, the original distributors of Fruits Basket, Love Hina, and Sailor Moon. Originally, English manga volumes were sold as art pieces and were $16 to $20, which for the 90s is crazy. Even with inflation, manga volumes aren't that expensive now. Tokyopop's manga were branded as 100% authentic Japanese manga, and were modeled on the Japanese tankobon rather than an American graphic novel. They were smaller and used a less expensive paper. Soon after, other companies like Viz followed suit, and the modern English manga edition was born. Speaking of Viz, they're the ones that use the example page from earlier, but every company has a different version of it. 7 Seas just uses half a page and has less info. This book reads from right to left, Japanese style. To read from the beginning, flip the book over to the other side, start with the top right panel, and take it from there. If this is your first time reading manga, just follow the diagram. It may seem backwards at first, but you'll get used to it. Have fun. I like it. Very friendly and right to the point. A lot of times, these pages can get meta, like this example from Neon Genesis Evangelion Legend of the Pico Pico Middle School Students by Dark Horse. Neon Genesis Evangelion Legend of the Pico Pico Middle School Students is, as you would probably guess by the name alone, a manga. And like most manga, the pages are read in right to left order, as seen in the sample diagram below. That also means that this is the last page of the book, and you need to flip it around to begin. You'd better go ahead and do it, as Gendo is just going to stare at you until you do. This humorous style is most likely because of the nature of this manga itself, rather than the standard that Dark Horse uses. Then there is Kodansha, which doesn't even bother with these pages at all. There are only advertisements in the back. Same with books published by Yen Press. As you can see, the Viz page is much more in-depth, but somewhere around 2021, there was a change from the old page that I know and love to this page. The whole page is still used, but now half of the page is artwork from the book, and there is only one paragraph of explanation. Blank reads from right to left, starting in the upper right corner. Japanese is read from right to left, meaning that action, sound effects, and word balloon order are completely reversed from English order. I don't know why Viz made this change, but I do have a theory, and that's that there's not really a need for a long explanation anymore. Manga has gotten a lot more mainstream over the years, so chances are pretty high that a kid at Barnes & Noble with his parents will likely know what manga is and won't really need that long of an explanation. Plus, all of Viz's competition in the market have shorter explanations, so why would they be the odd ones out? But I do have to admit that it does make me a little sad to see this very nostalgic page being slowly replaced in newer manga editions. But I do think that it is a sign of more positive change to come in the future. So, that being said, sayonara.